It's up this okay.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good break. So we'll begin with opening prayers on page 5, twice in English and once in Tibetan. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Enyere Jada Nidan Jive Danyong La Nibar Choje.
And then we'll do the request for teachings on page 16. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Semje Namje Samba Dong Loye Jedo Jedo Jejong Dumo Duba Ye Joje Golo Godu Zo Damge Doje Jajere Zondong Shenje Medo Duje Bonjombo Serje Rumbo Dawa Jivik Yachi Jerbe Shavla Gujan Se Teme Water Toji Jinguru Do Mate Sheje Ngo Je Dawa Tamji Seba Gujen Chuji Je Nyamin Dibu Rinjen Gujan Se Umi Chuji Yenje Bodon Som Sanje Gunje Ngo Nye Ransam Joga Ngo Song Tong Zebe Zebe Lame Shavla Gujan Se Kanda Jojo Donggen Jigen Na Dari Lomra Chowa Kan Soda Tengde Dongbe Chujen Sharan Beba Sembran Dowa Tamjin Dere Namo Arya Laya Gidan Ludan Jigi Chung Da Dami Ginam Nendo Gunje Ragi Je Zomba Tamji Gidu Dagi Julen Do. Good evening. Tenida Tanging at Da Lodon number she say at the Dakoji rob some logic Hugh Simbari, Tigana Yita, Titonia. Lodon number here Saudita, Chijin Chingi or the Tenduda, Jamdo, the same Nende Laminian yours, Chi, Teletanato, and knock on the his rate, Tenia also Tangato Changchup Sam, Nandendo, Jinion, some of Bambina, Changchup Sam, Yidam, Lama Children, Chimbuing into the and the Changchup Sam Gongoya. Tene Yidam.
So this morning or this afternoon, we finished going through the different various contemplations, kind of in an abbreviated sense of the four thoughts that turn the mind. And then when it comes to the progressive stages of the path, as most all of you already know, then the next stage of Ngundro or preliminary practices are the accumulations of refuge, Vajrasattva, Mandala, and then Guru Yoga. And then once that is complete, then one enters into the fivefold path of Mahamudra, beginning with the practice of bodhicitta. And then following that, we have the practice of the Yidam deity.
Tendida, Jatanga Tere, Tene, Katan Kond Hua Nangiri, Tene, Chaja Chimbo, Nganden, Tene, Chinang Ngondo, or the Tela, Chuju Pumbo Jit Hidonke, Nimbo Du Hiawa, Tene, Kanza Jik Jula, Tiniji Yamlan Chivina, Tene, Ko Jik Kandarian, Sangjeto, Tindijeke, Tigana Jeke. Da Khenpo Inare, da Jin Khenpo Miwi Inare, Suje Kinayang, go Nyamlanchi to the Tiniji, Chadiore, Tinduti, da Jatanga Zoyang,
And so as was mentioned at the beginning of these teachings, the fivefold path of Mahamudra is really said to be like entirely complete within itself, together, of course, with the outer and inner preliminaries as part of the practice. So the outer and inner preliminaries, together with the fivefold path of Mahamudra, is really said to be in a path of practice in which all of the 84,000 categories of the Buddha's teachings are subsumed. So the very essence of the Buddha's teachings is entirely complete within this fivefold path of Mahamudra. And it is accessible to anyone, whoever wishes to practice it. Any individual can practice, and it can lead to awakening. It can lead to Buddhahood. And so even whether somebody is intelligent or not very intelligent, or learned, or maybe I should say rather than intelligent, learned or not very learned, it doesn't matter. Anyone can practice this path and experience the results.
어다티가 나 양아서 참자 섬당그로 어다티 페체 용약 가보리샤다 100% 장장지야티 페체 용 사마리 잠반다오다 제치나 우유네 주게 고 갈세고다 지로당 수보당 텐리 마용와 텐리 용구요로와 이나야 텔라 nenga 요마레스 테니다 종비나 레 100% 지난 디그리 안테 마종비나야 고지 네카오케 냠래 가르치기 요나지 니메키 냠래 빼나차 샤위나 로도 넘버 힌더위나 코티스티스든 로도 넘버 힌더위나 티네 고 효로가지 마토 요마르와 티니다 곰 티네 삼래 양티스 점도 냠란다 치 삼래 도산 냠란다 치 티니치나 디기요리 인치미니 100,000 로고야 요마레 티인도 가전 델라 칼스나 추두비야 데 상제 공모特别 마토 베타 롭단도지 드리지 200,000 미나 되네 파스마치 원도 안티니 가요 말레스.
And so some people, hearing, especially after hearing, all of the accumulations that are involved, like in the, each section of practice, each of the Ngundro sections involves like 100,000 accumulations of either recitation or prostration. And this continues, these very large numbers of accumulation continue into the fivefold path of Mahamudra. And so it might feel discouraging, like some might feel like, I'm not like physically not up to it, or it might be just too daunting in general. But that you don't need to feel discouraged by that, because even if you can do the accumulations, that's really wonderful. So to try to do the accumulations if you can, and if you can't, you can still practice the fivefold path of Mahamudra. For instance, each day you can reflect upon the four thoughts that turn the mind, or you can even choose a particular thought. There's a 4-line verse that goes with each of the reflections on the four thoughts that turn the mind. So you can contemplate those verses or one of those verses, and then you can do some refuge practice. And sometimes, if you aren't feeling, or if you feel inspired to do instead Vajrasattva, then on other days you can do the reflections on the four thoughts and then practice Vajrasattva. So in this way, you can still do the practices without necessarily doing the 100,000 accumulations for each section, and it will still, bring about the results. You'll still experience the benefit of the practice.
exam do ta churati 100,000 meaning pass chag mari do.
So you shouldn't think of it like in school, for instance, if you have to, to complete a course of study, then you have to take your final examination, and if you don't do that, then you don't pass the class. It's not like that.
Yeah, I said this. If you so not so if you if you finish the 100,000, or now if you passed, but if you're not, you didn't finish the 100,000, no, it didn't pass. So not like that.
It's not like that.
So the Dharma, so as much as possible, so you are according to your age, physical, so what you can. So no worry about it. Okay, if you really want to 100,000, that's fine. Each, finish. Or I saying this, if you can, so there's no worry about 100,000,
So also this Dharma is like, I say, just kind of showing, okay, I finished this, not like that. So we have to practice until achieve enlightenment, until awakening, So, the Tanga to San Gyabra Chibik Tavla, Karina Yang, Yamna Chigo Yorwa, or Tenditine, ko Tigano Yita Yang, something at the thing door, that the main Yang, Jiko, Jikla Jing, do Yamna Chine, ko Tindina Yang, and take yours. What?
And so also, in general, we practice for the sake of awakening. So whatever practice we do serves that same purpose. All the practices serve the same purpose. So if you're practicing, then it doesn't really matter what you're practicing. The practice is like whatever practice you're doing is the best practice. And also there's so often there's the custom of practicing a particular yidam deity, a particular deity as like the main practice, the main deity. And so that's also okay to choose like one deity practice and to mainly focus on that.
In that case, shorty, Karsananga, Yamlechia, the kitchen body door, Tindu, near the Horseshoe Day, including me, Karsananga, Chi Karsegona, Tandi Kinekala, not so familiar. This Dharma Tiniji, Yamlenchi, Shiva, maybe, ko Maubala, Levunya, the Maubala, Rindo, Samba, Yomari, Katangala, Imba, Lenala. Ko Majiba Chilan, Tivunga, Yomarwa. Tending was a kissing Yamle Majivina, Tarotobia, Yomari. That the kitchen Borowa. In a Yamle chair, the Dako Kandiji Chivina, Jatan drink the Yoris.
So the most important thing is to actually practice, and it is. He said, like this is the same for everyone, including himself. So now is the time to become familiar with like a particular practice, and through habituating and becoming familiar with these practices, then in the future, through the power of that, like those karmic propensities, those karmic seeds, then there will definitely be the result of whatever practice that you do, whatever you dedicate yourself to. The main thing is to just practice in some form or another.
Practice itself is the
So the practice itself doesn't matter so much, actually.
Guessing or Tarvatopsamari say this Hakoya the Kabori Tina Yang, Nato Benanton Chu Nyon Chu, Benan Yamlen Chingenji Shivatan, Yamlen Majin Kenji Shivati, today, Commandava Yungdua, Tinujik. This Yamlen Chingenina, Shibinekala ko Simbat Nerondoya, Jikivala Yang ko Karsegore, Telehenamewa, Tili Yungdua. Yina yang ta ang ga hin ga hit some good. Oh, tini ta number my ba ga yang ko lolo chi yang ko tini shigido some yorwa. Ti indu ti yang koran yamlen yores. So koran jik chinabe chamba yujure ninge yujure ti indu ina ko inchi mini karse gore yang number jik majina ko karsego tarwatoya mewanroda tini insamarwa karsena ko gahi gulbe ninge hyodoa ninge yongate timitsi balatini ngatoda damju tini doa sanje gana tini gahi rada solbe ninge doa ate konso yang sanje yorwa o tindi yang nga samsigiro wa ta namba jibu mai ba ta manga hi ni yore manga hi dube rolo chi ko here accept chi tinde yore ke namba mai ba ina wa ta so yula ko kanda sem ki ju chi studio na ne di dangzi ta den zima chung ro go dan zima ke chung chung yo na ta ko chi ba hira yo mares. So we have Chakrasamvara text.
So, whether or not the practice leads to liberation really depends on the quality of one's practice. And so, we can see, for instance, especially at the time of death, someone who is a practitioner has a very different approach and attitude at the time of death than somebody who is not a practitioner. So somebody who's a practitioner, their mind will actually become more stable at that time, and they won't suffer so much. But that being said, being a practitioner, he says, doesn't necessarily even mean being Buddhist, because because some people may know, that there are plenty of individuals who are not Buddhists who also have, really favorable and peaceful deaths. At the time of death, they have a lot of love in their heart and they're very peaceful. And so that, goes to show that actually it is the essence of the practice. So for instance, somebody who, even if they're not Buddhist, but they have a lot of love, they have a lot of compassion, and it's possible that they can attain liberation at the time of death. It is, there are some who are extremely compassionate, and there are even animals, who are extremely compassionate. And so that is, the main thing is whatever it is that causes the mind of self-grasping to dissolve, to diminish, that is what is most effective. And one doesn't have to be a Buddhist. And however one gets to that, it doesn't even really matter so much. However, that being said, so that is possible, but as Buddhists, and as Buddhist practitioners, it's so precious to have this opportunity to practice the Buddha Dharma and so important to practice. So we have these really special and extraordinary methods for conquering the mind of self-grasping, for generating really extraordinarily great compassion, and we have the very clear kind of explanation of the view, and in particular, coming to understand that there's no essence, to samsara, and having that view in particular is also extremely, important, being a Buddhist, to have that understanding, and having the method of, say, meditating on your body as the divine form of the Yidam deity. There are all of these extraordinary methods that we have access to, and that is really very precious and profound. But then to think like, oh, only Buddhists have access to this, that also is not a correct understanding. It's not actually, it isn't, it is also possible for others, to ribe. I
think that's good. Okay, so I think that's Yeah, and if some have questions, that's okay. And then otherwise we can start Chakrasamvara. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In regards to the Nundro, and you're saying that doing it to the best of your ability, the quality of it is the more important part. But especially I notice in this tradition, there is a lot of the wording of completing Nundro. That people speak about, I've completed Nundro, right? You hear that all the time. So I wonder how that works with if you are doing more of a kind of a flow of it, not doing exactly according to that, how, like, in my mind, I do feel like the idea of completing it really makes a difference. So how do you feel that there is completion, but maybe you need a little bit of tweaking here and there? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense, or?
Is it, oh, okay, go ahead. I'm curious about it, but it sounds like he understands, so that's what matters. Yeah.
That the Jetanga to Nila imba, the Tandada, Charger Chimbuk and then Sia the Keda, Mundo te Karsina coach, Mone Tani and Keda, Pena Joan Jikan Zongon, Tap Killer, Tuji Chimbo Zundutini, Tindi Jekita, ko Kanza Jek, San Giala, Chatama Jik set, though Tindi Yores. Tinduta, Tindi Chine, ko Sanji Yore, Tigana Yike, Joan Jikan Zongon Kamrawina, Tine, Jik, for entire Tibet, the bear Tindi Kita, or something to top Tini Chumberis. Ti induta ti ri thanda lao nangiri kojik lam ramba shindu yar juichi di kala jing ro thobi na rap res yin yang ye labi at khari na ga hi ko ta ti peche chung ga hi thobu yo mara physically chi thobu yo mare yang ga hi tu chu tindi chi thobu yo mare temi ta nga kha yung sa mare samne yang ko tindi mares wa tindu yang ko kesi tili inji mini 100 to ma cha wina ko nyamlan chi ya me jo tini maris.
So it is, this method of the different stages of Ngundro and the fivefold path of Mahamudra is a really extraordinary opportunity to, to be able to do the whole, all of the progressive stages of their path in their entirety. And, it's a really very skillful method, thanks to Lord Jigten Sumgun, who, in which everything that is needed for awakening is complete within this path, this concise and very skillful path. And so as a result of, Lord Jigten Sumgun popularizing this method of practice, there were so many throughout the region in Tibet who were inspired to do, this fivefold path of Mahamudra. They went in, many who went into retreat and became very realized Mahasiddhas, great accomplished masters. And so it is best, if we can do the progressive stages of the path, if we can actually complete, all of the stages. But if it isn't possible because of physical challenges or because of maybe, inability and as far as like time and schedule, then we don't need to think that there's something missing, that somehow our practice is lacking in a way, or that it's not as good. So that's the important point. Yeah.
제가 나 얘기 데려와 데레 되네 다 양가 저 complete 세지 요러와 다디 라 카르라 버스나 베네 강자지 고다가 complete 100,000 finish 차선 랍도 다 제기나 complete 랍나다 지 장계고네 랍나 만데고 말에 고 장카다 차선 친요러와 얘네 양고 complete 세야디 당원에 지나 고 awakening 상지 그러와 얘네 제기나 고 100,000 지나 고상 마지 제기나 제기 말와 아 티니타데 추세야데 괜찮던데 도와
So also we have to think about like what does complete really mean, right? So it could be, someone can do all the 100,000 recitations of every, and prostrations and so forth of every section, but and then they can say, oh, I completed it, I'm complete, but what complete really means is
yes, you can this number, yes, you can finish. That's you can say complete, but
so maybe they completed the numbers, but did they awaken? So that's really, that's not necessarily the case. So that is what the complete, what complete really means is to actually bring the path to completion, to fruition. And so apart from that, like completing the numbers doesn't guarantee anything.
right. So interesting Dharma is how this mind, can purify. So sometimes a lot of stories, yes, of course, according to the, charts, step by step, completely. Yes, majority go through that, you achieve enlightenment. But some other case, like for instance, I think there's many stories. So some, the retreatants, right? Or maybe Lama or retreatant. And then there is kind of like or servant or take care.
The servant or attendant, yeah.
Or attendant. So sometimes not realize whatever somebody specific practice, retreatant not realize whatever their practice. So then maybe this just kind of wondering, like take care of things, bring the tea, firewood, and then that person realized achieve or whatever
So that person actually gave rise to realization.
Right. So this Dharma is tricky, right?
Then the Dharma is tricky.
That's mind, so mind who has pure.
Whose mind is pure.
In the Dharma tela karsanati karsananga so lando kayo mas Dharma truth. In Dharma la yin yang ko individual ke ta penachana chikina ko something kora yele be jo che o ga something yo ta ya go in something me shimbe kala de ko same to chikina same hita tu marwa ko lo chi ka nge yo ma saya thonya cha sa ki yo ro yin ko parjo kinya ti be ta konsam zamji me chabre ya ta samdi di yo re ta samne kora be same thama ji ta de la kola pe ta saya di go gre thonya di go gre hyapchi go gre se ne sacrifice chigoro matik thandala pe sem thangma pe theba yichi tine kale khandi ji jagona ne kale jagyorwa tini jabdu kota sem thangma te soliyor sen da koti attendant yorwa tini ko attendant sanji no gosarwa.
So in the example, that he just gave, so it could be that for instance the individual who is staying in retreat, whose attendant is like taking care of everything for them, and they're just like relaxed, they're in retreat, and they're not really, they're not maybe really doing the work of taming their mind.
Yeah, they practice, sure, of course, but
so sure, of course they're doing the practice, but like how deep is the practice really going? Whereas the attendant, who might have, in this case, for instance, like incredibly pure view, he's very devoted to the practitioner, thinking how amazing he's in retreat and he's practicing, for the sake of all beings. And so then the attendant is so pure in their motivation and really sacrificing for the sake of, this other person's practice and rejoicing in it so deeply and having such great faith and devotion and trust. And so that in that example, that attendant is the one who actually gives rise to realization.
So another story. Do you remember this one king? I don't remember king in the India, but the king invite. I think king, right? So he invite all the Buddha and Buddha's retinues, and then this king, like kind of like Theravati, that not so that safe and that some Jimicha wapeta, Narmo, Jurmo, better that Tindiki, that delicious Tindiki, better. He's a road yat on them, but that you can Kalandra Mandatini, Ya Sanjil Pugi or Wa, Sanjil Pune, Tene, Sanjil Kortan Jibata, Yataton Latini, Yendin Kortan Jibata, Pune, Tene Tigavla Tene, that Hilato Tama, Hieta Dutin, Sanjeke, that Namju dedication Chigio Sarwa, Tindite, Sanjik Zondo, or Tang, dedication to Kitan King Choran Chigo, Siana. Choranli sonam cheji chigores. Sita sanje lav yorwa. Tendi madus de sanje kare sanje kite jarbo lav yorwa. Te jarbo sanda tati ta sonam da chehyo ngai jire ga jinda tsama ngara thong yore ta yena ta cheba mendo sonam su chena ta te ngo hyos lav yorwa. Tendi tene ta sul ngogor sanje tene peo ta terawa bekar jira tene ngondo ta jechina chiro story koyore. Tende karsena ta gerbo kun roson tang yore yena yang ta ko tadung koran la bede juyowa gerbo yimba tene jechina ko papa no yo segring sanje korna jeba ne pu zamti chita huge could deeply sincere and roji yosamarwa yena yang almo telepe samji michawe ke sanjel theba 대가 나기 gerbo pe masivikta sonam chembore samji michabe ke sonam kazna ko jawang mal koran sonam za koran gerbo cha koran juyu wadamji mazibikta training be de koran ki juti ki be sanjelen deniji sanjin koran je ban deniji tan choba pudo somne koran semde yoba mekita jesi ran theba gawa towa tiniji ta olmotel sem tama tiniji yorwa tinite sanjik dedication.
So you guys are also all probably, we've heard the story, so are familiar with when there was a king, I think it was King Anatha Pandit, or no. And so there was this great benefactor who was making offerings to the Buddha and his retinue, and so there was a big kind of display of offering with all of these incredible dishes with like the 100 endowed with the 100 flavors, and all of these luxurious, really beautiful offerings were made and offered to the Buddha and his followers. And every day there was like a series of days when these offerings were made, and present during these ceremonies of offering was a beggar woman who was witnessing the whole thing, and she was just so overwhelmed with faith and devotion and deep rejoicing for the merit of the benefactor who was offering. And so normally the tradition was that a dedication is formally made for the benefactor, the one who is making the offerings, or whoever it is who has accumulated the greatest amount of merit. And so the Buddha asked the benefactors, today, should I make the dedication for you? Should I do the dedication for you, or should I do the dedication for whoever has more merit? And the benefactor, who he said was a king, thought, well, I mean, I probably have the most merit, but yeah, would then in that case, whoever has the most merit, do the dedication for whoever has the greatest merit, and it was the case that the one who had the greatest merit was this beggar woman, because she was so moved by this display of devotion and great generosity that she was really with deep faith in the Buddha and deep rejoicing, for the merit of the king. She was so, moved and so pure in her heart and her intention, that she was the one who ended up having the greatest merit. And so the merit of the entire ceremony and offering was dedicated to her.
Tigana yida dengan luji je yore. Tene jowa niksan songkong ka kabla. Tene da tidi chuptope mongbo yusarwa. Chuptope mongbo yusare. Tene da nima jik tene da chirang so chupta jik ten kyo la rwa. Chupta jik ten kyo s. Chupta ten la kodwe.
Thì tên là Drupon Mambo là lạp song nghe.
Chupta mongbo jik le yore s. Tene chupta ten kyo la yore s.
So there's also a story of when there were a lot of accomplished masters who came to visit, or accomplished yogis who came to visit. What's that? Say again. So they were gathering together, like a gathering of accomplished yogis, and then and Lord Jigten Sumgön asked them to show their accomplishments. Yeah. So, they're to show whatever their miraculous powers and accomplishments. Yeah. So, Yongcha.
Nima Hergwa, Nima Her. Nima Herdutine, that the sun rays Yoro, like it, Hakode. What Tinigan, Koran Lakjatini, the pen, the parts of Henchi or
So actually, the one who showed the greatest signs of accomplishment was the cook. The cook who actually took his pots and pans and hung them on a ray of sunlight. Is that right? Yeah.
So Tini Tachitan Karsana Kungas Tangi Kuntuga Yiri also got to Terawa Pena, Chipchina, 100,000 Tana, Sanji Zigiri, young Mats Tangela, Matanke, Sanji Zigiri, Tini Taco, same Tantamana, Pia Yomiki, La Raligi Yosarawa.
And so what this, maybe so all of these other accomplished yogis had done all their accumulations, they had done all of their kind of the whole entire course of practice, the entire, all of the stages of the path, but the one who showed the greatest signs of accomplishment was the cook.
My question is more of a clarification. I know that when people take on the fivefold path of Mahamudra, in the end, the deity is Chakrasamvara. And there are many people that go, well, gee, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because my deity that I'm associated with is not Chakrasamvara. And there are people also I know out there that their main deity may be Guru Samaja or Hevajra or Tara. And I'm just wondering if you could clarify, because we're going to be doing a text on Chakrasamvara, and we certainly don't want to have people tune off because that's not the Yidam deity that they're attracted to. So,
they almost must be.
So penakong yana tene de demcho shira nyamne chegiore de sla shimba che nyamne chegiore tene mi shimba yang chichina sla shimba yang nyamne chegio sare tene chichina denda yana o nga demcho la muba shira me tene yang nga chichina kachuningo samare sam sigirwa dene denda yana dene kongso denda de pendo dadung thì điểm chỗ là mua bà sẽ đạp mena yang thì nhìn na pendo yoba là có na gare là có gare
Ta chỉ ta thiệt rồi, thằng con thiếu na cái đấy, chỉ ta là sẽ đi, có chỉ vào đấy, ta chỉ du giang ngô là thế là sống đó mà đã tem mà thôi biết cái đó là con cái cái gì đấy, chỉ vào rồi ina la kari nyamne china tene mande wa yu mare ina yang ta thanda nya thangi khonthi wa na yi khoti Fourth Path of Mahamudra ki yidam te Chakrasamvara tini ta nga chon ro ji cha xiao ina ko set ki cha di ro cha la ro ji ina
gare safe like a safe like a box
no
oh sorry
set huh?
I'm pretty sure this is English right
Okay, so the also group your set, okay? If you
set
yes.
okay
Right, so this okay. We have to these days, we can change the door. Okay, there's the one set, okay, hinge, that door specific, and also this, directions, whatever, screws, this and that. So that we count like fivefold path of Mahamudra. I said that ultimately maybe there's no different in them deities, but I think that is kind of like better to fact in practice. If somebody practice fivefold path of Mahamudra, so the better to practice Chakrasamvara.
to do the whole set
Right, for set. Right, so otherwise, yes, we can, the door, so this like screws missing or whatever, just start to fit, but not the blown through that door. So not 100% not blown through, but we figure out like a bit, but better to the set. So
to do the to do the Yidam deity that's in your kit, that's in your set.
Because of this is not like counter luck. This is very important too. So we ordinary concept, all kind of things, that's okay, particularly these days more for me concept, so but like these high realizations like Lord Jikten Sumgong, and those people like they can see 100%. Then they said, okay, you Jagasamvara, the fivefold path of Mahamudra is Jagasamvara, and the six of Yoga Naroba, the Vajavarahe or Vajayogini. So those people is not like us. So we can say, well, I like this, I don't like this, this too long, too short. That's okay, Oh, I don't want to meditate, just on meditation. I don't want to meditation. That's okay, So whatever you can, that's okay, But so the high realization, so that's he says. So and the Joan Jikten Song Doa, that is all they catch him doing uni, young de what to some of it. There's a catch him what is on doa. No Julie so plan of Zoch as on doa, though not you to clatter can they hung de what. Zochi grace.
So Lord Jigten Sumgön said that so to practice according, like as is taught according to the sutras and tantras is what is most important. So like the deities that specifically come from the tantra or the Tsangma, they do dangju ne yongyo marebe.
Todo in the Karsong the Chibolago, do Judy Lagomaro, Kare Yuna Tina, the Keche or the Elawata, and the Charge Chamberlo Womla, when I Nandenala, them Jono Wongo Yunata, Songha Yorwate, Keche Chadi or is.
So for instance, like in the, meaning that when it comes to the fivefold path of Mahamudra, the deity, the main deity is Chakrasamvara. So it's best if you're doing the fivefold path of Mahamudra to just practice that particular deity. But he did say before, and then he started speaking English, I will just translate what he said before, which is that it's also important to know that all of the deities are actually the same in essence. And so there isn't actually any difference. You can still, whatever deity that you practice, it's still, the instructions for another deity still can apply to that, to your deity if it's different.
However, in a quote and set,
However, it's good to follow your set, like practice according to your set.
Questions? Okay, so now we look at the we get print. So page 9. Demi, can you give me please this bills? Don't use. Yeah, maybe other one. Yeah. Tini ta thangbo de nga ta sanga nyamlen chiya la tini ta chetang dorje ta thiwe song ta chetang nga zo chetang dan chobe ki ze scenario da ji nga ta music da ramda yorwa pe hansa pe mombo yores tini ta zo ji chatang yuwina chetang da yagbori yin yang ko mujhe kinyamlen chiya la tene so sama chekina ko peju yang yago chi tugu yo marwa tindu tene yina yang ta tiki nane ta kantan chochi ke nane ta za chekyo ke chekyo te karsina dorje dang tibu chadi yores.
So when we do these secret mantra practices, there's often there are a lot of ritual implements. There is there's the different instruments, for instance. So they're all different ways that music is played and so forth. So if you have a bunch of people, and then there's the everybody plays a different instrument and the music sounds. But of course, when you're practicing by yourself, then you can't do all of the instruments. So the music is the music is simplified, and the most important implements or instruments in terms of that, or the most important implements really are the Vajra and bell.
Tiga na yige da tananga chondela da chongji de da nga dangi kontiwa na da sanga ke zo sanga tela da kasna nyong ba nga de yihe nga labu yore tiende da jetang da dela ji jishi da pe momo yore tiende jetang tan do du shuban da wina nga zo da dela jaware nga de chongde yore is TV nana pede tsenga yoro dela Gyabra
Gyabra Rubonanga. And so also, as we know, everything in secret mantra is symbolic. And also we are familiar with, the important element of Vajrayana practice being that which transforms the 5 afflictive emotions into the pure essence of the 5 wisdoms. And so there are many different ways to explain like the symbolic meaning of all of the various implements and so forth. But in brief, so you have, for instance, the bell, and there's the tip of the bell, which is like the the point with the prongs. And so this represents the 5 Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families.
디가 나 일단 내려가서 돌셈라고 다 돌지셈바 이나 돌셈 테스리다 타나가서 와저 사파들라고 말해 다디 돌제샹라고 돌제샹 다 돌제샹디 다가 총무생야디 몽보지 심기도와 베나 돌제샹세야디 다 추그 돌제샹스 추지그 돌제샹래 다 추지그 돌제샹디 다 가지다 랑키 셈바 이엘메와 로 추그 돌제샹 드레 총고요래 다양하도 참내 롱그 돌제샹럽도 다양 상지 좀 된디 이가서다 디 동지 슈인바 예보 있는 뭐디케 근데 당아 갈세고래 노용 빵비 있겠더니 다 다르바데 드롭톱사마레 나랑 제르보레 노용도서 제니 이니카스나 나랑 responsibility 티 요레 티인데 얘네양 노용 마파비 있겠더니 다르바지 요나 때로치 송도티네 상지 좀 된디 노린창 올 향네 롱주 조베 그 향네 근데 단다
The Sanji Longku.
고시는 되게 상황들이 있는데 왕들이 나요로와 다한테 동중 보여래 티인디 테레스 티인디다 단다디 그래서 축 돌지 창 랑키 스미 된들 총고요래스
And so then there's the face on the bell. So the face there, the face is Vajrasattva. But this isn't Vajrasattva like Dorje, well, the word in Tibetan is Dorje Sempa. But Vajrasattva. But in any case, it isn't Vajrasattva like we're used to thinking of Vajrasattva, but Vajrasattva as Vajradhara. And so that is Vajradhara, the Dharmakaya, which is indivisible from the true nature of your own mind. So that's what it represents. And so but it is that Dharmakaya essence in Sambhogakaya form. So this is connected also with the story of the king Indrabhuti, who, when he met the Buddha, he said, I don't think I will be able to practice the path that leads to liberation through renunciation, through abandoning the pleasures of the senses, the path of renunciation, because I'm a king and I have many responsibilities and so forth. And so please tell me, is there a way to practice the path to liberation without abandoning the pleasures of the senses, without specifically practicing that type of renunciation. And so the Buddha then appeared in the form of, in Sambhogakaya form, together. And so the Buddha replied, there is for those who have great merit, such as yourself. And so then appearing in Sambhogakaya form, he bestowed upon King Indrabhuti and his entire retinue the empowerment of Guhya Samaja. And so here this Dharmakaya Vajrasattva or Vajradhara represents the true nature of the mind.
근데 디가 나이랑 가서 돌제테레다 돌제탄 탑리 이네 양 탑 코라양라 양 근데 타나다 가서 야르케테네 라가 마르지라가 요르와 티인디 티라가텔라 네 야르지라가라 야가 마르지라가라 요가 티인디네 야 자와랭가 트리제 총디오레스.
And so then we have the Vajra. And so the Vajra also has the upper prongs on one side, or like the prongs on the upper end or on one side, and then the prongs on the other end, or on the bottom side. And so the upper prongs represent the five male Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families, and the 5 prongs of the lower side represent the 5 female Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families.
Oda tini tiga na ya Korani na tini nyam chirita da tini di na huwa na yi tini tab na hera Korani ta nga tarwa tam hin chembe koma togu na tini da tab hini songdu manjo wala tini tarwa tam hin chembe koma togu yo marwa tini da gile ya semde ya ti jik tab hini songdu jogwa tini songu yo res.
And so also the Vajra and bell represent method and wisdom. So the bell represents wisdom, the Vajra represents method. And as we know, this is very, appears all the time in secret mantra, the indivisibility of method and wisdom. And so that is why they always appear together.
Tiga na ita demjok wangjian tene da pamuk wang da zizuti wangjian tu tobi na tene tana kitanda ko tike ko samaya senari tindi mambo yori tine yang tina ne da zo de ji da dorje ta tibu tene lu ta ma dewa gore se aji yores da ko
and so if you have received the great empowerments of either Chakrasamvara or Vajravarahi, then you know that there are many samayas or like commitments or vows that come in those empowerments, but one of the principal commitments or samayas is to never part physically from the Vajra and bell. But of course, that's sort of difficult, he said.
Yine ya ta nga zo teni ta tanda di tiga na yi ta nga zo dorje te da ko karse gore da ze kari na teni ta tiga na yi ta dela karse na ta dorje ngone dorje chaya ta teni tibu ngone tibu chaya oda te tanda di na sungu yores.
De la Jinjilapa. And so one of the first sections in this long Chakrasamvara sadhana is the consecration of the Vajra and bell. So when the consecration occurs, then the bell and Vajra like become a real bell and Vajra.
So dorje sam hongle dorje sam ba yuwa le tau dewa jimbo rong yin dorje cho tiga da kong su inchi ma tong di sing su sam ba tiga ma la ni ma yuwa le hero dong ba ni je rong yi tiga cho termo ade ga de gong su yuwa la yi su ni ma tang yong ten da wa se war chors ta chora yang ma nyam to la chora chora di bo lo de sa maybe.
So then, as it says, first for the Vajra, Hung transforms into Vajra Sapa, who melts and becomes the Vajra of the nature of great blissful method. For the bell, A transforms into Vajra Topa, who melts and becomes the bell of the nature of emptiness knowledge. Vowels and consonants on the palms of my hands are completely so it's more like the vowels and consonants appear on the palms of the hands, not that they're completely transformed, but that from the vowels and consonants on the hands, then there clearly appears a sun on the right hand and a moon on the left.
So the Lagurta, this may be a little bit difficult. Tibet is very easy, but English, I don't know. I think English, same thing. So, here, right, clearly, right? Oh, no, sorry. From this sound, clearly, so that clearly
appears on my right hand.
So then you have to hand like that. So Tibet is ila yes nimachors.
And then on the
so then up here on my right hand. And then the moon clearly appear on my left hand, like that. So then we, like this way, then we can read that this mantra, Om Sarva Dada Gada Siddhi Bandara Sama Dita Ekam Sadam Dara Me He 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 Hong 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 Pe Soha. So there you can pick up the Dorje, so like here. So then, so Dorje hold like that, right? So this is the level of your heart. And then here said Om Banza Genda Hong. So then you pick up bell like this. I don't know if you can see or not, like this.
So you kind of hold it to
Like
your
this.
hip, towards your body, with the mouth towards your body.
Right. Touch the like under the rib.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, so but like this way, like.
So that it's touching your body.
And then we ring the bell. This is the 10 directions. If we can, you 10 directions. Okay. So they drink the mantra. Om Bandara Dhamara Neda Samdara Neda Sarvambada Chedada Dalene Etanja Bara Medana So Bhavam Bandara Sadosha Sindaya Same Lokane Hong Hong Hong. Okay. Do you have some questions?
Yeah, if you're doing other practices besides if we're doing other practices and we wanted to consecrate the Vajra and bell, would it be okay to do it outside the context of Chakrasamvara? If we wanted to bless the Vajra and bell?
I think
Like on a retreat or something.
Right. So probably if you like practice Vajrayogini or practice Chakrasamvara or like He Vajra and Guya Samaja, I think that's the key use. So this kind of highest.
It's highest yoga tantra.
But otherwise, also this we thinking you can use the, of course, the bell dorje. So any practice, sadhana. So that's have to have your bell dorje. But I probably no need, basically.
So if that's the case, then is there another way outside the context of this practice to bless the Vajra and bell? Let's say if you're on a retreat or for daily practice, an easier way? Not that I'm asking for an easier way, but is there another way that's not a Haya Yoga Tantra, associated with a Haya Yoga Tantra?
All right.
Practice.
So that's actually sometimes, okay, this also the good question. So the bell dorje, actually, even though we can blessing like daily practice, Chakrasamvara we do every day. But also if not, but still bell dorje. So there's already blessed, so their power. So amen.
You don't have to think that you need to bless them, in other words. I think
Itself, it has blessing power.
Right. Chakrasamvara practice. So Chakrasamvara, like for example, this is very long sadhana, but so Terawa, Tajatanga to Samdine, Kunyamne Chiaji Yoris, Yamne Chiditanga for session of shocking the winatini, Penata, Dine, Tadunga to the Dung Kla, Tingizi one horse, Aji or Tingizi one horse, vacation, Bukurita, Yunamino. Today, Tagana Yikita, the Chapchi Yoris. Ina Yang, Tene, Benatuni pass upon out in the Bogumaris. Okay,
So if so depending on how you're practicing, if you're practicing in retreat, then you're doing 4 sessions a day. So the first session, then this is done only in the first session. You don't have to do it again the second, third, and fourth. Together also with the samadhi empowerment. This actually follows the samadhi empowerment. It's right after the samadhi empowerment from Lord Jigten Sumgun. Right, so you don't need it for the other 3, just the first.
Daily practice though.
But if you're doing it as a daily practice, then you can do it, as your, like per session, for this at whatever session that you do. And at the
It's the visualization, right, of the 5 families and the Dharmakaya and you visualize it, right?
I think, okay, so this, all right, so you have visualization, whatever he's here said.
But that is
Dorji, I don't originally can read that.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So my question is that I just want to clarify that the consecration in itself is the visualization you say of the bell being the 5 Buddha families and the tip.
Yeah, that's naturally, but you have to visualize like this way.
So you're visualizing what you read in the text.
Right, but you just have the bell in front of you, and then you do the sun, the moon,
Right, right.
and then that's when you pick the.
Right.
Okay. Just
Right, so there you visualize like this. There are Dorji Hongle, Dorji Sambakivales.
So just as it describes, so there's a Hung, and then from Hung, arises Vajrasattva, who melts
So also
and
this
becomes the
Vajrasattva,
Vajra.
I say the Vajrasattva is not Vajrasattva.
Yeah, it's the Dharmakaya
Right.
of Vajradhara. Yes. Thank you.
And so forth, yeah.
Drupon, when it says to move the tongue back and forth inside the bell in the 8 cardinal intermediate directions, I remember how important I remember thinking, like, is it important to make sure that that happens in all the different directions, or are you, because I saw you just kind of ring naturally, but is it important for us to be actually thinking about hitting the different directions as we ring the bell in that part of the sadhana?
Right. Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, Likabe you can move, but not too much pay attention, okay, hit this way, right, east, south, west, they're not head. But maybe just slowly you ring the bell, maybe just move different ways. They not hit the same spot, So they automatically goes way, this way, that way. But you can do like a bit. I see this like holiness, So mostly we do mostly like this way, but some like a bit more, I think. Okay, so no questions?
Rinpoche on Zoom, Sandra is asking, is Guya Shamaja the same as Red Chandrazig, or is that another deity?
He said it's different. The Koyurwa, didn't the Chenrezig Marpo, Dang, Sangwa Dupa Chikbarebe. Okay.
Ta jetang as demcho tela ta namju demcho jetang ta demcho tela tini ta cha chewa di 다 기타 딤쪽 로몽보 여서와 이나당 가서 포로 다 되죠텔라 되네 다 롱나 티솜라도 lö해봐 아스다 되네 튜바 나고봐
So there are, the history of Dimchok is the Tibetan Chakrasamvara is very old, quite ancient, but at least as far as Tibet, that which is practiced in Tibet, there are mainly 3 streams of lineage, that coming from Luipa, that coming from Drupa, hard to say that word. Can you say Rinpoche again?
Tuba
Drupa,
Tuba
which
is
is
like this tuba,
Gantapa,
this-
actually, Gantapa
Gandaba Tuba same thing
that's the Sanskrit. I can't remember the Sanskrit for Luipa. And then,
Luhiba, I think yes this is the name
oh, it is, maybe Luipa,
this
yeah.
is his name
And then Nakpopa, which I don't think that is the Sanskrit Nakpopa. But I can't remember what that is either. But these are the 3 main lineages. So
데이터 튜바 당가 중에 뭐 동지 봐 다티 동 지스사레 something 이나 다 지가긴다요
Jena malam nayagrawa.
다 디스티 사고로
So he says he doesn't really remember the story of Gantapa, but he's going to try to tell it anyway a little bit.
Okay, what's the name?
So in Tibetan, it's Drewupa. Like
Tuba is Gandapa,
Drubu means bell, and Gantapa is the Sanskrit name. Ganta is also or Gante. I don't
So
know. the
Nakoba is
pronunciation.
something black, color
Colours.
something.
Actually, I'm sure it says maybe in
Not there.
Eric's text, but yeah.
다 튜바디 되네 다 베미시비 게트네 다 코랑 다 게롱 벤트다 케바 휴지 인사라와 드니 지지트네 공베 벤트다 진트네 코랑 베타 머스지 메사베 다 리 카스도다 카스고르다 베 사자 똥바 엠바 드니 제르트네 데기요 사라와 다 텔레티네 다 디디 코로나 때 띵인지 기세티네 베 지금 무 칼라로 세인도 티네 히다 비제요 말이
So Gandapa was a fully ordained monastic pandita. He was extremely learned, but he spent a great deal of time in isolation. So he, was residing in a very remote place in solitude, in retreat, and he was mostly lived off the food of samadhi. So he didn't really eat much food, and mainly just was sustained by the nourishment of his samadhi.
디디데 니마제기네 다 갸보 디기다 유틱 갸보 다 타니사지 인사라와 드리게네 갸보테 코란다 갸보당 코란케다 지 가르세고 롬보당 다 갸보 잠당다 도 참마 드리 참참 베타 베케이션도 오든 참참 사자 똥발트는 로여사라와 로레스
So kongla shubeki sacha la
사자 로여스 다 하고요 말와 드리 고고미 하고 말와
And so at that time when Gandapa was in this solitary place and retreat, a king from a neighboring region was on vacation with his queen and ministers, kind of with a retinue from his kingdom, and they were going on an excursion.
디디티네 다 드니제레티네 코란타 갸보코다 티 롬보트족티네 코란페 토토 드니제티네 통요레스 디요르와 디디네티네 다 갸보케티네 코란 그겨로다 저랑 하사야다 다 디스커션 유지로와 이나 저랑 디디베 케바 토토 드니 레도 스틴다 저랑 Dela dina dis kalikabores. Tindi tini nye ta nga dis ta nye tini sacha tini jiwo yores. Tindi tini chorama shorts. Lab yorwa.
Nge Sajala.
Nye sacha short tini ta tsawa tiko kala tiko desa tiko labu yosarwa katonda.
And so the king and his ministers saw that there was a Mahasiddha there, or a practitioner practicing, and they were really amazed, by this sight, and they approached Gantapa and they said, "Oh, you're really in such a kind of a situation that's, you're all isolated here. Really, it's really difficult to get any food or provisions. So you should please come to my area, my region, and I will provide food for you, and you can practice there."
Yina yang da tibu ba kita land Gyabra yorta land Gyabra, I don't remember exactly, but yina kanta yang nga yung mares chorang da woje ke kurwe na la mar short lab na nga chorang dog mares ta bena cha sha na da thonda da woje ben singen da woje khang ji le degre ma tho be ge singen da woje tega sma thongbe ji le da yung mare da ta thinde ji ke cha thombo ji gerbo la nga chorang za tini yung mare da ta kanta korang nga be tini rigang ta be gelong thop tini je la ma karsa da kurwe na la ta nya sa te nga yung mare do tin lab yorwa. Not exactly the word, but
Yeah. So then Gandhapa responded something to the effect of, I am not interested in,
kita chorang nga tis thongchong do res.
and in fact he was like, you're kind of insulting me. I have no interest in, in kind of the things of samsara. And he said some words that were something to the effect of, like a place where the lion belongs is in the mountains. The lion doesn't come down into the city or into a snow lion. And so like he said some very kind of poetic and profound words to the king in response to that, saying essentially, no, I'm a practitioner, I'm a Gelong, and I have no interest in going with you. I'll stay here. And so then the king became very ashamed, and couldn't respond because he was so ashamed.
Tene ko jele male te ko samno je tang yo ya ta ko nge ko gelon tene di ma tho bya ji so go sares sam ji tene ta konso na la tene korang ki jarbo ke ta thombe ji la tene ta thomo lo chung yong ma bo so ro ji ta chara so nga so gelon ji pa bu gu te chara so so thang lang thong gen sta so yu so ji
gom ta ya po koma song so dang bo den da tene di gyapo gare di kong kontro do yo re gare cha so
kontro yo ro hem lo okay ma pa yo ro ji na pe na tene be kang ke singi ji do je le tene ma chara so pe na la thong be ji le yong ma de lo la yo ro te ma sa ya ro ina ta ko ti indu tene jarbo tu ta karsna kontro sa yo re hem cha yo re ina anu ansa ro
They do.
Tini jarbo korama na la leb na sta kingdom leb gwa. Te megi leb du tini karchi yor tamu chontela.
So the king, he was at first he was very kind of ashamed. He felt embarrassed, but he was like held his tongue and was kind of practiced patience in the moment. But he felt he couldn't respond, and so then he went home, and then he kind of felt
he has planning some. Yeah, he has.
sort of like a planning of revenge, it sounds like, because he was still, his anger became even more intensified, once he had gotten home, and he felt like, how dare, that yogi talk to me like that, and he felt so insulted by the words of the yogi that, he devised a plan to kind of show him.
Tene thongpa nangla sta, Koransu lungpa rawa. Thongpe nangla tene pumo lo chungchung tu tsama tso ki tang yore is Koran.
And so he called or invited called upon some young girls from the village.
Tene chorang ki ta kola chawa pa lo thomken, pa thomken suyu sta chiransu. Ta ko girbu ki ha ko marwa ko suyu ne chiransu thanglang ro volunteer suyu stene labi yorwa.
So he said, who among you can volunteer to make this yogi monk lose his vows?
Ina tene ta mo chamze pumo je ki tene, wata nga thanglang thonggo si labi yorwa.
So there was a Brahmin girl who said, oh, I can do it. I'll do it.
Te chi tene, ta tene chi tene mondo yorwa. Tene mondo, ina ta ti gabla karsana thangbo kona hyapchi imbanda wo tene, kala ki, konya ki, tulo kong, ta tene chi tene, tene chi tene, ta ndo yorwa mo. Dro ne, ta keche lo dun do isari ta lo dun do mo di yosarwa. Tene ta jarbo ki takhi chigoro kongso kari chigona, sta lagu yorwa. Tene chi tene tama de ta jitang ta ape ringbo yosarwa. Tene tama jarbo ki ta ako yorwa, ta ko tawa lo, ti mitsi bala, Koran la yang, tene pujik je, pumo jik je, tene chi yore ste labdowa.
Kongni.
Ko yorwa ta ha. Ote chong yorwa ta de.
And so the Brahmin girl went, and she became his attendant, and she gave him food and clothing, and she ended up staying there for 7 years. And the king, was really curious what's going on, what has happened, and so he had heard Kong Drog
check, but it looks like very far away. Maybe I don't know, maybe 5 years or whatever. So.
5 years travel?
No.
Oh, over the course of 5 years. Yeah. But he heard that they were living together and they had a number of children. Yeah. Okay.
So they have then they had the one, son and one daughter. So the king is very, very happy, So now the king. So then this is sent to all the ministers. Well, now they have to invite him to his kingdom. So this what is the Gandhava. Tine da tichi yorwa chontiya de. Tichi ne tine da tangi yige ji yor ta di sekti ya bote ni melo ina da ti tine sholap je china yung mare se ta thambo ya ko lab yoro ta jarbu kama sholap go lab de tine o nga yongo la yoro wa.
Yongo la yore.
Yore.
And so this invitation was delivered, and then the Gandhapa sent a response, a letter in response, and the king was thinking, oh, maybe he'll come, maybe he won't come, but Gandhapa's response was that he would come.
Tene koso tserang tusu suji, tene matsama pangdek, ta lungba tiki matsama pangdek ne, ta ngoma tene korang ki penta korang tisha joji yoro yige. Matsama la te yoro matsama la te tene tsama yige de semne ki Gyabra tene ta kongso ta leb yoro tene koni ta ma leb yoro koni leb du kharchi yoro na tene ko te rago ji yoro racho ji ki na tene chang je ki tene ta ko tene de o tene insa da jemen ti ki ta ko rago ti na chang je ki tene korang ki bukti ni ko te tene ta thomba tene na ta thombe na mando bres ni ta matsama ki jagor ko hemro ta chi tangi ngema singe na ma phag mare le tsegi yorwa ta tsama ki jag yorwa.
And so then so there was a great kind of reception that was arranged to receive Gantapa and his family. And the king had passed out like papers to everybody and that said essentially like the words that Gantapa had originally said, that was like, I have no interest in falling into samsara, and a lion doesn't come down from the mountains into the town. And so everybody had these papers, and then as they approached, his wife was carrying like a horn with beer in it, or chang, and then he was leading the two children, or carrying or leading the two children. And so as they approached, everybody started sort of like, it sounds like jeering and kind of booing and saying, and also reading these words like, a lion doesn't come down, from the mountains into the town, or something like this. And so, as they were approaching, this is what happened.
tene tene chiri tene ta tene chi tene mamambo hansan zom tene mama chima la tene Gyabra khorang ma yong chi tene Gyabra khorang ta yorwa ta vet ne khala tene khorang kitanda di photiya namla ji yo 이제 dorje charwa tene pomotiya ji yo tene thivicha tene ta tene the yamyam shi jor chi tene forson be la gore.
And so then the king kind of came down, and started to approach. And as he did, Gantapa threw his son in the air, and he transformed into a Vajra and landed in his hand. And then he threw his daughter into the air, and she transformed into a bell and landed in his hand. And then the Gantapa and his consort merged in to union and flew off together into the sky.
So that's, I don't know story, but this we have this Demchok theory. So this Mana line, they passed, actually going to Ladakh. So this one so famous. So there is like very holy place. We call Demchok theory.
So it's called the Chakrasamvara Bell Mountain.
Yeah, so all holy place. They're landing there.
They landed there.
Okay, so maybe he walked or fly, I don't know. Tindi tate nga di atanda di tangi kontiwa na yere tene nahoba tuba loheba kenane ta nga tanda dila te tubulo des tuba kilo demcho.
And so as he mentioned, so this is just, in connection with the lineages. So there are these three main lineages of Chakrasamvara, Nakpopa, Druwipa, and Luwipa. And this particular lineage is the lineage of Druwipa, or Gantapa.
Rita chetanga tsodi ta marba ne maju de jote ta jetang demcho jetang marbe kida to tanda tedo karsena ngaso henchen namba hese ya ji yungdo wa tene henchen namba hichon hegdo ta
Di gare yempa hakuma song tenda dukor dang demcho dang je dorje dang shimba gare
de songondiba.
So then, so Marpa also, brought in bringing all of these different practices, sadhanas, to Tibet, translating them. And he also, in particular, translated or brought these four co-emergent deities, being the Chakrasamvara, Kala Chakra, Hevadra, and Guya Samaja.
Tinida tanda de nga so jetang ki juba tigana yiki yang tini nga so da so juya la tini galo cha se ya je ki tini demcho pol pe mambu yoyo series.
And so then there's also the a great translator by the name of Galo Tsawa, who was responsible for translating a lot of the Chakrasamvara literature. into Tibetan.
Tini ta tanda di nga so chetang ta so dingen senari ta ti combined marba thang tini ti skalo cha yosare to dingen ti tanda ta nga so Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso chadi yoris.
And so this particular sadhana, which is one of the longer sadhanas of Chakrasamvara, is a combination of sort of an arrangement that combines both the works of Galo Tsawa and also Marpa. And it was arranged or kind of composed, but mainly arranged by Rinchen Phunso, Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso.
Tini ta nga so ti samsa samnu tang duan de la nga so ta nga so be rimi chi gori se ya chi yung do wa. Tini du ta ngone bena Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso ro ji samnu tang na ta ngone ko rimi chi tumken ke ta lama ji chadi do wa chadi yoris.
And so we hear a lot about like the Rime movement, Rime tradition, but you know, we don't have an Inji translation. We just say Rime. We don't have a translation of that, do we? Oh, non-sectarian, the non-sectarian movement. And so this is, you know, but actually a lama, a master who is truly non-sectarian or truly Rime, it was Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso.
Tini ta nga so ti rimi is di nga so rimi chi tu yo maris. Nga so ro ji la rimi chi tu maris.
Like we're incapable of being non-sectarian, actually, of being really
Nga so
Rime.
kang chi ya bo chi ma to na tini sama rime wa ji chi tu ya khwa yu ma wa.
Because if we can't get like one leg really established, then it's impossible to like also get the other legs established.
Right, yeah. So we tini ta pena cha sha na Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso ro chi na ta ka ju ngone ta pena leni ji for ngone ta chi churu ngane dem choto samji me cha wa ta sor to na ta nyamlen chi ya tini yoris. Koran nyamlen chi.
So Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso, he was not only a lineage throne holder, but he was an extraordinary practitioner and had done like all, you know, all of the practices in their entirety, was extremely well versed in the fivefold path of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa.
And also terwa pena ta ta de re ga na yi ta ta de na yi no ro churu ka na la tini ta Rinchen Phunso ki tini ke ta churu koran ka ta Trung da Zalung Trung Mongbo yor ti na ya Rinchen Phunso ti ga ta sap chi pe de yoris.
Sapchi?
Sap sina te ka kan ro la bro.
So
Rinchen Phunso koran Trung yor wa.
Ale. And so also, you know, not only that, but like there are a lot of traditions of, for instance, like the Trulkor practices connected with the 6 yogas of Naropa, and like specific practices involving the channels, winds, and drops. And that which comes from Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso is like the most profound, the Rebe.
Oda te ga na yi ta ning me cho chi na de song ris. Der dong na ning ma koran ning me cho cha chang wa. Der song chi ji tene ta kwang da Gyalwang Rinchen Phunso me bi na ni pe che ning ma ti ga la pe kar sa ambrok kan ro ji cha di yo sa ro wa.
Broken Chagade, you mean? Broken Chagade Kongmena?
Oh. Te ga na yi ta ta na nga so ngone chi na Rinchen Phunso ki ta na ngande ngondo ngande ma da so ri de kaste. Ni hanzap ngondo yorwa. Pe ma se tini ning ma koran yo ma le ta na. Oda tini chi ni ya ning me cho la tini yores.
And then he's also a great like Nyingma lineage holder, and he was a Turtan, a treasure revealer, a terma revealer, and he came at a very important time, and where, you know, if it hadn't been for his influence, there are particular Nyingma lineages that very well would have been lost or broken. And so he's also the one who is responsible for the Yangsab Ngundro, which is like a combination of Drikung Kagyu and Nyingma.
No combination more yang za kurang kurang yang yoro mundo.
Right, no, but Yangsab Rang did not do combination Marebe.
Ale
Yeah.
yang za mundo.
Right. So he is responsible for the preliminary practices or the Ngundro practices of the Yangsab.
뭐 대가 나기다 단단 거 기초 냠랜치야 지 차창대와 드네 지금 냠랜치야 요리 스페나다 단다 맞아 텐도와 대용구도와 같이 파도 도루 세야 드네 다 파도 거기 냠래 대가 나기다 초가 뭐 통송나 이나리 양 람네치고나리 다 강타베 베리 양자
So chala karelavi?
Chala senata china branch in the world branch penanga so da Chakrasamvara ina mombodo Chakrasamvara jinse yori for.
Oh, okay.
Tene da yangza nana mombo yoro yangza nana kwangcha se ya. Tene tiga na yeke tene mo chongsona. Changcho se yoro wa changcho se mo chongsoma kadam bombo wa. In celebration, in Ramne, consecration, fire puja, lots of what
And Rinchen Punsok was extremely prolific, so he composed many very important texts, both kind of general and also specific to the Yangsab. So, for instance, like if there's a huge wealth of like different sadhanas and practices, and then also like supplementary texts, such as like, you know, the jinsek, like the burnt offering ceremony. There's a text called the gongshak, a certain like confession practice, and also if somebody dies, there's a particular ritual and practice called the Jangchubling, which is done in particular for those who have passed away. There's also a number of texts that are connected with the Bardo Tudro, and also like consecration rituals and ceremonies like that are called Rabni in Tibetan. And so he really was, you know, there's so many really important texts that can be attributed to Gyawang Rinchen Punsok, like texts and practices. And a lot, he kept saying also, like, you know, so many practices in the Yangsab practices and texts and sadhanas.
Okay, you have questions or no questions? Okay.
Thank you, Drupon. When you say we can't really be remake, can you explain what you mean by remake?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
That rimi sena ngaso the some go rimi didi tanda or rimi didi against no maji wa rimi slab grawa. Some go yosate rimi chag yo mar. Tang ngone against ya yo mar. Ngaso sanji sung sha jo ina tuksa sanji rawa. Tela tene tangos kandi ina tikche tingme korang kandi ina da namba ina sone ngaso respect chi go grawa. In the respect chivatele rimi chato ya yo maris. Rimi seyate karcha adios nyamle chadiores ta.
But I don't understand what you're saying about against trouble.
against Magina, Tini, Rimi, the Winjiri, some Yorwa.
Against Mena.
Yeah,
Okay.
they tell your Mars.
Yeah.
Against Yomar, against
Okay.
Chitu, against Chitumara.
Okay.
Carson Sanjiro, Sama Sanji told you this.
So sometimes people think that Rime or non-sectarian means like that you're just not against anything, you know, that like basically like you embrace all of the different traditions and lineages. But that's not really what it means because, you know, like, of course, we're not against anything. You know, it's all the Buddhist teachings. And like the Buddha is the source of it all. And all of it is, you know, part of the like very sacred and glorious Dharma, whether, you know, the lesser vehicle or the greater vehicle or, you know, any particular tradition. And so they're all deserving of respect. Like, so we respect all of them. So just being kind of like open to all lineages and traditions is not really the meaning of Rime. Like if we talk about Rime, that means like actually practicing multiple traditions. Rime.
That practice love do Karsena. Temba Rankanji Tsogurwa. That temba jik Tsogne, Benanganda would Dunga Juina. Tanga Dunga Jitsamba perfection word, that perfect, complete Karina. Rankatso de Joji. That the Tsosona. Tine Tanga been a Sachanda Wojil, Janchi, Sachi Chu to pay Yamlenchi, one long tree, Chaton top, Yamlen Chaton chi. He Kojik Yam Dog was another content look to Chaton she. Tine Tanga young, when a galuk no Wojik. That take young Chaton Tanga Jimmy Charwata, that cheat hovering.
So what would...
In a young Atsu cheat of Yakon Yomara, Yomarist. Naras Rankitandata, Karina Yaben and Dunga Juina. Dunga Ju Koracha Tangi, Rankato to Mara Magic. That's all matter the Shimbaji Chilam, Chitobia Yomarwa. In the Maji were they against Chicho Marwa.
So somebody who's truly Rime is somebody who like really perfects the practice and study first within their own tradition. So like, for instance, he said for him, like say, so he's Drupon Kagyu. So that means like he does the entire like course of practice in its completion. And he like fully, you know, like fully does the entirety of the path within one's own tradition. And then maybe, for instance, he studies in the Sakya tradition. He receives all the empowerments, transmissions, and teachings and does like their whole course of practice and gives rise to realization, you know, through like also in the Sakya tradition. And then maybe he goes to the Gelug and he does that whole kind of course of practice and study. So the reason why he says, because it says this is because there's sort of this misunderstanding of Rime meaning that you're just like not sectarian in your attitude, like, you know, meaning like that's not, you know, but of course we don't want to be sectarian in our attitude. We don't want to put down other traditions and say like be really, really prideful about our own tradition. But to really be able to, like, we can't even fully practice and study all that there is within our own lineage, let alone really have like those deep experiences of practice and study in other traditions.
Well, they got Nagi young, I thought in Yamland or Chidivina, or Natsujan Yabori, Pajo, Duguri Kesha, Yomaris, in Angazota, you were deleted over it, Metal Kana Power, Haki, Zunita, Jingato Dile Koji, Le Tan, Jutan, Jantan, Tinijilakota, Telebarwa. The left did that Tigana, the Takambotin and Chiburis.
And so that isn't to say that's very important not to then like start to think like, oh, our lineage is the best or our tradition is the best and that other tradition is, you know, inferior in some way. So that's not at all, you know, how the right attitude, you know, of any Dharma practitioner. But there is kind of like, there's this saying like where your flower falls, right? So meaning, you know, wherever your karmic home is in terms of lineage and practice, is like then there are the karmic causes and conditions that have led you, to that particular practice or to that particular lineage. And so it's important to kind of like go deep, and really sort of be committed, to whatever your karmic tradition is.
Tati ngone china tate mo special chadi yoris individual ngola kanchi yo ka kawa connection no telechina tati ke kora mo karse gore tele chinhap chembo tele za chembo individual ngola te chadi yoris.
And it does become more special for you because wherever your karmic connection is, that is going to be the greatest blessing. That's going to be the most profound.
We this talking about the Khenpo. That's what the lao yoro kaste. That's Chuinzu. In a Chuinzu Koranya Lechina, Chuinzu la yo mare, Chacha Dzogchen Chuinzu Yagre lao yoro. Re Chuinzu Jiwanya Lechina, Tigare and Tigres. In that Joan Jitasum, so be Shajita, Jatanta Theory, Dzogchen and Tawan Kading Yolap said Yorwa. Teletine, Takatan can we use on someone? Chaja Chimbo, Mate Dzogchembo, Karedi Chungchendas, Dzogchembo. Bene Chungchendas, Chaja Chimbo, Bay and Son the Miss, Bay and Son and the Jambare Zudian, Kojo and Jitan, Kona Chaja Chimbo, Tayan, Konapa, Tele, Yomare, Sudi.
The Tamade Garede, they pay Yona.
Bay and Sona, then Duje, not on Duje Sena. Not on Dumachi Chotogro, and Duje, and Duje no repair, Jang Yorilan, Duje is then Dumachi Chumaris.
So for instance, if you remember during Khenpo Yeshi's teachings, he, for instance, when he was talking about kind of this statement from the Chuyingzo that was sort of saying essentially like, there's nothing that surpasses this, like this is the highest. Like it's even more profound than Dzogchen and Mahamudra. And so then he also mentioned the quote.
So that's the Yinaya, Kokasa, Chuindu, Yaman, Chinkangone, the
And that's the case for somebody who practices the Chuyingzo. That's absolutely the case. There's nothing wrong with saying that because that is true for the person who really goes deeply into that practice, who practices the Chuyingzo. But then he also said, he mentioned kind of to that point, to explain that point, also the quote from Lord Jigten Sungen that says something along the lines of, Dzogchen, the view of Dzogchen is like a Garuda, and Mahamudra is beyond any example. So that which holds an example, or that which can be like compared to an example, falls within the realm of the compounded. And so therefore, of course, meaning what we're trying to do is realize the uncompounded nature, or the unconditional nature. So it's sort of like saying this is the highest, right? But of course, that is the case for whatever practice, whatever lineage, whatever tradition it is that you're practicing, it is the highest. Rube.
Thank you, Drupon. Yeah, that accords with what I've read of, in fact, I think Jamyang Kensei Wangpo said, you can't really understand another tradition if you don't understand your own thoroughly.
That's true.
Wow.
So now I want to start, but I think only a couple of minutes.
Yang mi kashi test kable kapo yorwa pena tena mo yorwa tene da yang ngazogi juba chena mache tes desom yorwa tene kashi chikchina pena dang le yang juba ni la yin si yorwa.
Tene yorwa. Ina da ti de chetanga to de samo tango kurwa. Pena chu korangone chetanga to samno jik tangwi ne ya te samno tango kure. 야 주바지 지디 타능이라 카하라오지 드니 차요 말이스. particular 되는 것도다 가장 contribute lineage 베나 로제 샤나마 주대조지 요르와 주대조티 가주 세야들이 티드 텔리양 체바 칸요 다 타는 것도 sometimes we thinking this theorwa this ka in be so noji chochi dina ka yo maris pena thanda ma chi ji ta ngaso sarma thang ning mani se ji yore ning me ki cho de ta ma chi ji this yor nga bo ro ro pe nang gurum bo ji ka tu su ro ji jo de jo ji yore tene ta sarme ki cho to samang mane jinda 말바네 마치 유대교는 차대요레스 대인들다 빼나 영골 학파 되는 것도 가주도지이나 다 예수지 가주 다 가주 갈세나 가주 이제 중인도 중요사로와 다 이내양 다 질타나 가주 뭐지 요 말에서 정말 본다 냐면 제 직까지 잘했어 텔레양 고 제바스 요 말에서 양다 참사 온 것도 이제 가래라도 양지 가노지 성으로 가요 말에서
So I just said, pointed out that, but on the other hand, right, I mean, is it not the case? Because there are many of you here in this room that have karmic connections with more than one tradition. And so does that mean, is that mean that somehow like we shouldn't practice in both traditions? And he said, no, of course, that's not. The other thing that's important to understand is that sometimes we think of them as being so separate and so different, but actually they're largely the same. There's so much that is the same, and the essence is absolutely the same. And then especially like if you're talking about within the Kagyu tradition, like there are all of these different branches of the Kagyu lineages. Originally there used to be like 12, but now there are fewer, but still there are a lot of the different branches of Kagyu lineage. And so to think of them as being completely separate is not actually, that's not a good way to think about it, because there really is a lot of unity, and so there can certainly be crossover. And same with Nyingma too. When we think about like the differences, say between like Nyingma and Sarma, it really has to do with Nyingma being kind of the earlier wave and the earlier kind of wave of translations that occurred with the Nyingma, kind of, in historically speaking. And then with Sarma, mainly you have, for instance, like with the influence of Marpa, who mainly translated many of these tantras. And so there isn't really a lot of distinction that like ultimately to be made, because the meaning of the practice is really the same. So it isn't something that we should think that we also have to be like completely exclusive in our traditions of practice either.
어떻게 나이다 단당이라 말베이케다 생신 남게서야지 다 초지디도 직단한 것도 디스 가주다 레로다 사자되다 디스 카인비 손로지 딱이요리 얘네야 다 가주기 예남도 정말 된죠 방모도 정말 다 사지기 예남 대화지 단다 데려와 지바지 향래 Yellow can Yamlan Chinyata Sama, Yedam, Denjong Pomo, Zandu, Tungur, the Chadi Orwa. Tindu Kanda, the lost a Yomari.
And so even in like when it comes to Yidam, for instance, so as he mentioned before, like Marpa translated the 4 co-emergent practices of like the 4 main deities. And also like in all Sarma traditions, there are lineages, it's mostly the same deities that are practiced. So like mainly, like Vajra Varahi, or Chakrasamvara, or Guhya Samaja, or Kala Chakra, like whether if you're practicing in the Gelug, that's the case. If you're practicing in the Sakya, that's the case. If you're practicing in the Kagyu tradition, that's the deities are pretty much are the same deities.
So in Karma Kaju, we have torture certainty. There's the words of my perfect teacher, all guides and mountain dharma for Nundro. So, so is there one for the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra, or is that specifically you need a teacher for? Is there an outside guidance for that also?
So the karma kagula the nadi kongso the dep kashe the tso rawa yorwa torch of certainty would be like Drong. Do you know the Tibetan name?
Yeshi, I think Dome.
Yeshi Drome, yeah, or Nge She Drome, Yosare. And then what was the other one? I know you mentioned Words of My Perfect Teacher. That's Patro Rinpoche. That's mainly Nyingma, but Mountain Dharma. Oh, Richu Yosare. The Chagme, is that Chagme Rinpoche? Yeah. Dini yang dina di kongso kunzang lami shalung log yorwa. Dini di pena chakching ngadin chena. Dini tso gide yore be yang na dina tso pena dina menga chikpo tingo gurebe.
Buri ita tangi ita di morang tuwa pe ya wore tini katang shuyin ba. Ta zobo lamrem zobo di tanda di katang tabu tarchiyan wa. Tini tabu tarchiyan chungburi ta ti je la ta lamrem de tini ta rinpa shindu tanda kuzang lami xelung se ya. Yore tanda dugunga junda wina tanda chodra kanzi xa dharma giti xelung yore tinang ta tanda korang ku tsama ngane chazang kiti yore ngane kati jigo.
So he said that's a very good question. And, you know, some of the books are actually the same. So, for instance, you also probably studied the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, and
that's all the root. Every
So like of every Lamrim practice. And so that, you know, is like through Ngunro, for instance, through the preliminaries, that's a very important text. We also use the Words of My Perfect Teacher as well. And then when it comes to like the later practices, mainly we rely on or refer to a text called the Words of Drikung Dharma Kirti or Dharma Kirti Shalong. And that has, you know, a kind of more thorough instruction for specifically the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra.
제가 나이다 다다디 디기탄 들와 양 제글라 다나가스다 에닝스 양안데 기데네 엔데와 뱀메시위케 요레다 제탄데 티년데 ngoni china kono saja chujure sina jile da joban jikin zo mo pita lomo zo cha chi tene
Pangmodru pamare Dzogchen Timping Ningpo the jikin zo mo
yeah.
And so then we also have a very important text is the Dzogchen Timping Ningpo or the like heart essence of the Mahayana teachings, which is also from like lineage specific Lord Jigten Sumgun, one of his main disciples. Shedang Dorje. And that also is dealing specifically with the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But does it go through the whole Fivefold Path? I think it's just the Ngunro. Gyoyo Marenga. Kokonga ngala gyohoro nang la yorowa hine nga che yomare. He actually well, never mind.
Okay. This long? Yeah, that's one. Oh my God, no, that's not. Oh,
dorje hongle dorje samba shuvale chongwe tavadewa chenpo rangjin dorje cho tiwa ale nyama shuvale chongbe sherawa tongba ni rangjin tiwe cho thermo ade gade yongse churwale la ye se nyama tang yongden dawa sewa re cho wama sarva da danga da sidin bandara sam Tita ekam sadam dara me he 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 hong 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 pi so wang ben zar gen da Banzara Dharma Rane Da Samdha Rane Da Sarvam Buddha Cheda Da Dalene Danja Barame Da So Bhavam Banzara Sado Shindaya Samen Do Kane Hong Hong Ho Okay. Okay, so now your dedication.
We'll do the short dedication on page 24 of the prayer book. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Dragungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Yeah, thank you.
So one minute before y'all leave, we have a couple more days of teaching here for the winter retreat, and Sunday we're going to have a soak. I think in the afternoon. Oh, okay. Yeah, so in the afternoon, probably we'll do the soak, right, Rinpoche?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do it in the afternoon. And so if anyone wants to bring any type of food, unopened food, that would be wonderful. So we can have a nice, beautiful soak in this shrine room. And also I wanted to remind, there's a couple people who weren't here on last night, and people on Zoom as well, but we are also having an event next week, the 18th and 19th for Losar. And we will be having a celebration here for the opening of this beautiful shrine room on the 18th, and it's a party, so bring your friends, bring whomever you like, invite everyone that you think would enjoy, and celebrate the opening of this room, this building, excuse me, from 1 to 5 or 6 on Saturday, and then Sunday. Right. Yeah, it's good for us to know. We have a registration form that you can get in the email or on the website, but you can also let us know too, so we can order the food, because everything's going to be free. We're going to order food both days. Actually, we'll have cooking food the second day, and so the second day we're going to be having a long life ceremony for Drupon Rinpoche, and it's going to be led by Drupon Rinchen Dorje. Khenpo Yeshi is going to be here. Khenpo Monlam, Kunchok Soltram, Kunchok Dorje, and others.
Also Tinchok.
Oh, Tinchok's coming.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, and Tinchok, Drupon's cousin. And so there's going to be many teachers and lamas here to celebrate this building, to celebrate the life, the long life, and please, Rinpoche, live long for us all to teach us. So yeah, so please come for that ceremony, and then afterwards we're going to have a big celebration for Losar with the Tintuk soup. How do you say it? Is it Tint? It's a gutuk, so it's like the celebration, but it's like Tintuk or something.
Gutuk is the
because of the day.
Then what's the tintuk?
Tintuk
It's
is a
just-
type of soup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Tintuk, good tuk. Right.
It's
Good
tintuk.
soup.
It's good to tintuk.
Okay. So
I
come
think we,
enjoy.
maybe explain the tento in good, okay?
Okay.
So tento is normal soup. Ten means noodle like a stretch, you know, like this. So this. So that's why ten and tuk means soup. So ten means like noodle, like make noodle. And the guto is the 9, number is 9. Right? So 9 is the actually Tibetan calendar 29th. There's another 9, right? And then make the soup, so like at least have to agree with 9, like, record 9
Ingredients.
ingredients.
And don't they,
Mm.
like traditionally in Tibet, don't they make the dough into different shapes? Yeah, like different animals.
Right,
Yeah. We don't usually do it like.
right. We do actually the Tibet. So this here is very difficult, you know, easy way. We like just names in the fortunes, like pepper. But Tibet, no.
Oh, you do it in the soup.
So Tibet, we
Oh,
make
interesting.
each like a dough and then whatever shapes, you know,
Different shapes. And the dough.
all. And then we first kind of like kind of dry cook, like a by fire cook, but like baking, yes, sort of bake. And then like just the eat, they pour in the soup. Otherwise, if it's too long, then maybe just kind of like
Oh, right before you
broken,
eat
yeah,
the
right
soup.
before, just right
Yeah.
before. But they have to have who is like with this in the mother, just dark place. You understand?
Something about releasing it in the dark place?
No.
That doesn't make
Pour
sense.
the soup.
So nobody sees what they.
Oh, okay, so you put it in the dark
Right,
place.
otherwise, just you can
right,
pick
right.
out all this, because you can see the hips.
Oh, I see. So you scoop it out in the dark.
Right, so
kind of
this
thing?
like this, there
Oh,
this,
okay.
also like a little bit, Tibet that is actually dark. This, so like fireplace and the candles, but we don't have the like regular light. But anyway, so this, so.
And then that becomes the fortune, or sort of like you get your name, the different names, right? We pull the pieces of paper that have the names. It's kind of, you know, a playful kind of fortune. But the dough actually becomes like what shape you get is together with whatever, like a particular name, right? So you know what name it is based on your shape.
Right there you can hide. You cannot hide.
Good. Well, thank you very much. So February 18th, February 19th, for more information, see our website. Thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche. Good night.